Have we gone too far with this one? Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch and today we're going to be taking a look at Claydoll from Sword and Shield. This card is a very interesting one that could potentially be worth taking a look at. We've gone crazy enough with power without competitive events that Claydoll seems like a good choice. If you like the content, consider subscribing. We just hit our 2,000 subscriber mark, so expect some special content coming up pretty soon. And don't forget to leave a like on the video. It always makes me feel good when that happens. So without further ado, we'll take a look at the list. So here it is. This is the list that we're going to be playing with today, and it is all based around Claydoll with Explosion for 200 damage for 2 fighting energy. This is a very powerful attack and has a significant drawback in that we deal 120 damage to ourselves. We have 120 HP, so we're going to deal 200 to our opponent and then knock ourselves out. But obviously there is 4 copies of Big Charm in this deck, so we've got an extra 30 HP. Now we're not getting knocked out, so that's pretty strong. We can do 200 damage to any Pokemon in the format and then not knock ourselves out. That seems like a pretty good trade for me. Now obviously 200 isn't going to knock out everything, so I've got a couple of extra Pokemon to help us make that a little bit easier. We have 1 copy of Diancie Prism Star to give all of our fighting Pokemon 20 more damage. Now we're doing 220 for a 2 energy attack cost. And we also have a 4/4 line of Cinccino in the list, not only as a bit of consistency with Make Do, but also for the attack energy assist that does 40 damage to our opponent's Pokemon and then accelerates a fighting energy from the discard. So what we can do is we can put 40 damage onto something like a maybe a Mewtwo or something like that, and then we can use energy assist to accelerate to the bench and effectively try and knock it out next turn with our Big Charm attached. We will be 10 damage short though. It's only 260, 40 plus 220, so we will need 1 of our 3 copies of Martial Arts Dojo. When we're even or in front, it does 10 extra damage, which gets us to 270. But if we're behind, which we are likely to be, then we can potentially do an extra 40, which can get us up into numbers like 300, which is a crazy amount of damage to deal. 260 with just the Claydoll, potentially 40 more with the Cinccino. Now, we've got a lot of things to do to try and set this deck up, so we are going to be using 1 Zacian V to help us in the early game. Intrepid Sword is going to help us draw some cards that will hopefully get us into what we need, and we also have 4 copies of Lillie's Pokédoll as well, so that we don't give up prizes in the early game. One of the big issues with the deck is that you do need to get a little bit of a setup going before you can do anything, so we can give ourselves a few turns with Lillie's Pokédoll. That would be a good idea for me. Now, we've got a bunch of Pokemon that we need to search out. So we're going to use 4 copies of Quick Ball and 4 copies of Evolution Incense to help us find our main attacker in Claydoll, and Baltoy with the Quick Ball, and then Cinccino and Minccino as well. We also have 2 copies of Pokémon Communication, just so that we can guarantee that we get out the cards that we need to get out. We also have 1 copy of Ordinary Rod, just in case you do need to discard cards early. You can shuffle them back in. Also remember, of course, that Claydoll, there's only 4 of them, so you might need to put them back into the deck a bit later on. We've got 2 copies of Switch as well, so we can move in between our Pokemon in the field of play. And 2 Air Balloon. Hopefully we can attach one of these to a Zacian or something like that, so we've given ourselves some free retreat. Our supporter line is relatively simple. We've got 3 Cynthia and 4 copies of Professor's Research. It's the most consistent supporter line we can come up with. We've not got any disruption, no Marnie, so we just need to make sure that we draw the cards that we need. And of course we have 9 fighting energy as well. That'll get us into our attacks as quickly as possible. We might also want to discard some so that we can energy assist with Cinccino. So it's an interesting one for sure. It's definitely not meta defining, but if we get the right matchup, then we very easily could get across the line. We'll see what we get in our game today. We've got a couple of wins under our belt, and there is some lightning Pokemon spotted in that particular Pokemon trainer's colours, so we could potentially be in a good spot here if they're playing something like Picker on the deck box suggests that maybe they are. That's not a great opening for us, so it's a bit of an issue. Though we should be okay, you would think. You would think we'll be okay. We've got a Diancie here, so we can start with that. And we've got a Quick Ball and a Pokédoll and a Switch and a Cynthia, so we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay indeed. Now, that's a Toxtricity V, a brand new card that's come out recently, a promo card, which is very exciting. What we're going to do is we are going to play down the Lillie's Pokédoll and then switch into it. We can discard an energy and then grab ourselves a Baltoy. We obviously need to get an attacker going as quickly as possible. We'll just pass the turn there. There could have been an argument to maybe use Intrepid Sword, but we do need to make sure that we've got the attack. There's Toxtricity, 210 HP, and most importantly, weak to fighting. So if we can manage to find ourselves an energy and a Claydoll next turn, we could potentially take a knockout on that, which will be 400 damage, my apologies. And we have a Big Charm as well, but they do get the Pokemon Catcher. Actually taking on this, what's that dude? Okay, no worries. The Diancie here, we got Energize there, which looks like it's going to be accelerating some energy from the discard pile, which is a bit of a concern. There's none in there, obviously, so not too big of a concern here. The biggest concern that I have is that we've already used one of our Switch, so we're going to have to get incredibly lucky to get out of the active here. We have a Claydoll, but we don't have a way to get out. So I think the key for us is we're just going to grab I think probably just a Claydoll here so that we can Pokemon Communication that one away. We can grab ourselves our Zacian now and draw some more cards. We might also like to attach an energy as well. Depends where we think it's best. Probably force it up into the active so that we might be able to get out of there eventually. We could potentially attack with Claydoll's first attack as well. That's an option. We've got 1 energy on the active. We need 2 to retreat. We can potentially get 3 to attack, which would be pretty impressive. But we won't be doing that. So yeah, we'll see how we go. Just going to get rid of this little free make update down the bottom that's just popped up, which is very frustrating. Get rid of that. Goodbye. Okay, so what are we doing here? Pokemon Catcher coming out. Our opponent has pretty much everything that they could possibly need, although they have just... I wonder why they switch into the Pikarom there. That's a very interesting choice. They might have the... they might have something like the Energy Switch. I was about to say the Energy Switch, or maybe just a regular Switch in hand. They're actually going to be able to Full Blitz here and knock out a Diancie, but the best thing about that is we're going to be able to return pretty strongly with an Explosion, so all we realistically need to do is get ourselves another Baltoy next turn and we should be good to go. Comes a Krogunk coming down as well. There are lots of interesting cards coming out in this deck that I'm not entirely sure of exactly what they do. Cynthia and Caitlin being played by our opponent as well. I'll get rid of a Lightning Energy and draw 3 cards. You'd think that the Full Blitz would probably put all those energy onto the Toxtricity V, unless of course they find something else like an Alolan Raichu, which could potentially be a bit of a pain, but we'll see how they go. They didn't actually get the attack there, so that's kind of a little bit frustrating for us. I mean, we don't get to do what we want to do, but they haven't done it either. So we're gonna chuck this Baltoy down here, and then we can attach to Claydoll and Cynthia. That's probably fine. If we do find ourselves a Switch, that'll be great, or even the Air Balloon, which is fantastic. Now we can attach that to the active and retreat. We've got Make Do as well. Could theoretically get rid of the Cinccino here. I think that's probably the best one to get rid of. We're not necessarily going to need it. And now we can chuck a Big Charm, an Air Balloon onto the active. We can retreat into Claydoll. And then Explosion here will knock out the Pikarom. 3 prizes, which is pretty good. 460 damage. Whew. And we will also take ourselves the 3 prizes required. So we're in a really good spot here. So early in the game, our opponent effectively giving us all of their energy, and I'm not sure whether they're going to realistically be able to take a knockout this turn. They've got the Zapdos, so they could retreat into that. They've got themselves a Toxicroak here. Put 2 more damage counters. Okay, so when we're poisoned, we take extra damage. So that's okay. We can probably live with that. Toxtricity at the moment not realistically threatening a knockout on us. The Air Balloon coming down onto the active. Tapu Koko is also on the bench, and that might be able to move some energy onto the field from the discard pile. But at the moment, I'm feeling okay. I mean, we've got Cinccino ready to energy assist if we need to. We've got another Baltoy on the bench. We're going to sit behind Lillie's Pokédoll as well. That's not the end of the world. Tapu Koko being popped here by our opponent. Attach an energy to Zapdos and one to Toxtricity, and fair enough. That means that Zapdos is likely to be the Pokemon that knocks us out this turn, and as I say it, here it comes. So, kind of a bit awkward. This could be an issue. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure whether we're going to be okay here, but we could be fine. Our opponent still needs to take 5 prize cards, so we've got a lot of time on our hands, which is good. We're going to be able to retreat into the Lillie's Clefairy. We check down another Baltoy as well. Seems pretty strong. We'll attach to the Cinccino so that we can energy assist. Although the question is, do we really have to? I guess we can. There's no issues in doing it. I'm gonna chuck the Big Charm down onto this Cinccino just to stop it from getting knocked out by something frustrating like that Zapdos, and we will Pokemon Communication away the Cinccino here. Grab ourselves another Claydoll. Now we can just mill that Minccino with Claydoll. Mill that Minccino with Make Do, to get a couple of extra cards. Now, I don't think we need to play this Professor's Research. We can just hang on to it and accelerate an energy from the discard pile to the Claydoll on the bench, and we'll be ready to attack with that next turn. Now, the big issue is that we are going to probably find ourselves in a position where we don't have access to 3 prizes next turn. We still need to take 2 knockouts. So we will need to make sure that we find another attack at some point. It's all well and good to explode one of these Toxtricities, but I don't think that that's going to be enough to win us the game. We need to do something else as well. You can see my opponent gearing up now for an attack with that Toxtricity. If they knock out the Minccino, then good on them. Cinccino obviously has 30 more HP, so 90 plus 30 is 120. I'm going to grab a basic Pokemon here with this Quick Ball. You'd think that they'd probably... Oh, they're grabbing Absol, actually. That's very interesting. That means that now Diancie, with 2 retreat cost, now has 3 retreat. We've already got the energy on it, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. And then they're playing Brock's Grit to put a Pikachu Zekrom and a Lightning Energy back into the deck. So that's also very interesting. It doesn't look like they've got a lot going on over here, though, so they might not even be able to attack this turn. And that's very interesting because it means that we can... Yeah, they're just going for the attack, so 10 damage. What's the best option for us here? I mean, we could potentially knock out with the Claydoll, or we could just place down some more damage with this Cinccino, and I think that's probably the best thing we can do. I'm not sure if there's anything else realistically that we need to do, so we'll just energy assist, put 5 more damage counters onto that particular Zapdos here, and now we're actually in a really interesting spot where Diancie will be able to do 90 damage with an attack. We've set up 3 attackers here, so we're in a good spot. 90 damage plus 10 is 100. It won't be able to one-shot one of these Toxtricities, but it will be able to knock out the Zapdos if we need it to. And also now we've got a bit of a pivot as well. So this is okay. This is okay. If our opponent doesn't get out of the active, then we are pretty much in clean sailing. And obviously Toxtricity V, not necessarily a uber high quality deck right now, but once that VMAX comes out, we will certainly see more of it. We've also got things like Boltund and that coming out to help out electric decks as well with the next set, which is coming in May. We've got 2 energy on the Zapdos now. We're going to see a retreat. So we are really in struggle street for our opponent. They're going to need to retreat into something. The question is what? Are they going to be able to get themselves anything realistically? They go into the Toxtricity V now, and they could use Energize, which will be able to accelerate some energy from the discard pile. But all that that's realistically going to do is give us 2 prizes to knock out with a Claydoll. We are in a position now where all we realistically need to do is find some energy, so we may as well put them back in the deck with the Rod. What we're going to do is we're going to put a Baltoy and a Claydoll back just in case, and then chuck one of those energies back. Now, possibly could have retreated first. That probably would have been a better thing to have done. Then we could have got more value, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. And then we can Professor's Research. There is the energy in our hand. We can thin out a card with Make Do. I'll probably get rid of this Evolution Incense, not necessary here. And yeah, now we're going to be able to just explosion. It's going to be a knockout on us, so they'll take a prize as well. But we're taking 2, and that's the important thing. We can chuck the Lillie's Pokédoll into the active, and our opponent won't be able to take a prize. We've got 2 prizes to take. So 1 more knockout for us, and we are smooth sailing, and pretty much everything on our opponent's side of the field is going to be knocked out to an explosion from Claydoll. So I'm feeling like we've got a chance. A reset stamp would be really bad. This Fion is a bit frustrating, but it's not going to be so bad that we have to... we kind of lose ourselves the game here. Whirlpool Suction comes out. I guess the best choice here is Diancie, because it's got the free retreat. Even if they knock it out, they're going to lose the game doing that. So there's no point in worrying. If they don't knock it out, we could get stuck if we put something like the Cinccino into the active and then we use the switch. So then we don't have the switch, sorry. So we'll need to get rid of that. Tapu Koko V coming down from our opponent as well. But it looks like they're going to go for... Oh, that Marnie could be very, very big. This is why we put the Diancie in the active, just in case things went wrong. The Marnie is going to shuffle our hand and place it on the bottom of the deck. Now, we've got an energy, so we are all good here. Dust Island comes down as well. Not a stadium that we're worried about in this particular one. This is when either player switches their poison Pokemon, the effect stays, so the active will remain poisoned. Okay, so they've taken the knockout, which means all we have to do is just promote the Claydoll here. We've got the fighting energy in hand, so we'll be able to explosion for the game. They'll take a prize. Oh, no, actually, no, we've got a Big Charm, so no, they won't. We'll just explosion, and we'll take 2 prizes, and they'll take none. That seems like a pretty good trade to me. Definitely worth taking a look at. So that's Claydoll. It's an interesting one, for sure. I like it. I think it's fun. It's definitely a deck that a first-time player can put together relatively easily on PDCGO, especially if you don't worry about the Zacian. The Zacian's just there to make myself feel better in the early game. Most of these cards will be relatively easy to get, and they can definitely do a lot of damage on the ladder. You'll probably win some games in your first few, which would be exciting before you can build up enough packs to get into something a little bit more powerful. But anyway, if you like this kind of content, as the 2,000 other people who are subscribed to the channel do, that's crazy to me, 2,000 people. I don't even know 2,000 people. Anyway, if you like it, then consider subscribing and joining them. That would be great. There's a little button that's just about here that you can click. Over here are some videos that YouTube thinks that you might like. And down the bottom we have a playlist for more deck lists in Sword and Shield. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @theSableEyes_YT. And apart from that, we'll see you all next time for more from the Sableize. Bye.